So thank you first of all, Bhavin, Sudhanshu, and Manish for taking out time today. We have about 90 people present right now for this webinar. I'll just give the context and we pretty much get flowing with it. So that's the
Yeah.
agenda.
I'm just going to put my headphones on so that I can hear questions and all that clearly. Right?
Fair enough. Yeah. So hi everybody. Thank you first of all for taking out time on Wednesday afternoon. We have a power-packed panel today, as you can see. We have Bhavin Pandya from Games 24/7. We have Manish, CEO of Nazara Technologies, and then we have Sudhanshu, CEO of PayTM Games today. Um, I'll just give a quick context to the whole thing, right? As you know, this is a gaming panel, and gaming as an industry has been growing many fold, right? The topic for today, and we are going to get many more flares as we go on with Tech-à-tête, which is the property that we will be moderating, and it is powered by Games 24/7. But today, the topic is about rise of gaming in India, specifically in the India market. I just have quick facts, and then we pretty much get going with it. Gaming industry today in India is valued at about $930 million and expected to grow by about 40 plus percentage year on year. By 2024, it is likely to be about $3,750 million. That means there's a huge space, there's a huge opportunity in an industry like gaming. 200 gaming startups, and pretty much we've seen since February to now during COVID era, traffic across has pretty much increased from somewhere between 20 to 25%, right? The questions are going to be around that. We have a little bit of a surprise right at the end of the session. When we launched this webinar with the topic that we have at hand, there has been an overwhelming response on the questions that has been flowing since last few weeks that we've been promoting the event. Some of those are good questions, interesting questions. So that's what we kind of curated, and I'll have it open for you to all the panelists. Um, at the end of the session, for our viewers, if your question is getting asked over here, and it appears to be, if it gets answered, then it's going to be a surprise that you hear about, right? So stay on, hook on yourself to the session, wait if your question is getting asked or not. And that's what pretty much it is. With this, I will just start with the quick roundabout thing. So, Bhavin, if you could just quickly introduce yourself and tell us very quickly in maybe one or two sentences, what does rise of gaming means in India? What does the industry entail? What does it mean for the country like India and for a sector like India?
Thanks, Richa. Sure. Good to be here, everyone, and thank you for your time. My name is Bhavin Pandya. I'm the co-founder of Games 24/7, along with Trivikraman Thampi. Been around for 14 years. Started with Rummy Circle, then made a foray into casual games with Ultimate Games, and then recently launching My 11 Circle, where we went from being one of many operators to the top 3 by the end of the year. And that was primarily because of product innovation and incredible engagement. I like to spend a second to talk about, how this has been possible. And in our case, the two main drivers have been our people and our processes. It's, in one line, amazing companies are built by amazing teams. And I certainly wouldn't be here if not for them today. And then our process, we focus a lot on trying to understand player behavior. And that has really held us in good stead and helped us get to where we are today. About the rise in gaming, I think these are very good times to be in India and in gaming both, and especially that combination is lethal. Of course, as we go through the session, Manish, Sudhanshu will share more about that along with me. But if I could summarize everything in one line, I would say that. It is only now a matter of time before we see a global gaming success coming out of India, and with that I will sort of pass it back on to you, Richard. Thank you.
Thanks, Bhavin. Manish, same question to you. Very quickly, just tell us what inspired you to be in the space like gaming, and what does rise of gaming in India really mean for you? And
hi everyone. Good afternoon and welcome. So this is Manish here. I'm CEO for Nazara, as Richard has introduced. Spent roughly around last 13 years in gaming. So for me, I think gaming, I've been evangelizing it for 13 years, that India is going to happen. And as me and Sudhanshu were having some lovely thali long back at status, and I was telling him that frankly, not a single global platform has been left by me where I've not told them that India gaming is going to happen. And finally, it's good to see that we are all seeing so much of excitement all around us on gaming. And all of us have really given a decade and a more in really building this whole thing. So from my point of view, it's a really kind of the day of reckoning is not coming. All of us, which we have really lived for, evangelized for, is going to happen. Uh, for a country like India, I think the opportunity is in India. Uh, More than what Bhavin said is, day is not for when you will see a global company. I would rephrase it. I would say that all global companies are going to line up in India, and there will be a very big global, a very big Indian company, bigger than the global many global companies in terms of size and volume of players and value is going to be created out of India.
Yeah, that's what I meant, Manish. That's
Yeah,
what I meant. Yeah,
correct.
I agree with you.
Absolutely.
I agree with
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
So for me, we are the most exciting market. So I'm not saying just because I'm the cheerleader for that we are Indians and we are India and all that stuff. I truly believe that the 900 million population has started showing signs of playing games, paying for games, playing games alone, playing games with their family, with their friends. And I think the whole aspects of gaming is bringing families together, friends together, bringing community together. I think that is what will make gaming in India a truly a mainstream social phenomenon, which will lead to the foundation of really monetizing and in a very big time. So I think this is the time uh, for somebody to really kind of start figuring out. And I remember 2010, there were 30 or 40 startups. Today there may be 400 startups. And I've been very closely working with the entire ecosystem. And I think the number of startups will continue to grow disproportionately, exceedingly, because uh, what game requires is passion and patience and empathy. And empathy comes from your own learning that if you have freedom to fail, you will be empathetic. If you have failed, you will be empathetic. And uh, behind every success, there is lots of failures, lot of effort. Uh, all of us have been wrapped on knuckles. Being every new release makes us more humble because what you think doesn't happen. 99% it doesn't happen. So how much you try to think you know gaming, the next feature update or next game release brings you down crashing, and that's the beauty of this industry.
Great, wonderful, great perspective, Manish. Thank you so much. I absolutely agree that this is the opportunity. Yeah, there could be ups and downs, but then things are likely to be flowing. So with this, Sudhanshu, I'll come to you, but my ask of your introduction would be slightly tweaked and slightly different. I want to just remind our viewers right here that watch out for the questions which are asked right here at this time. And if it is getting asked and getting answered, there's a surprise waiting for you. Yeah. So Sudhanshu, I come to you and I come to you with the ask of the intro plus the question because you come from an e-commerce industry, right? Before PayTM, you took on the stride, you were with Flipkart. So just quickly tell us what made you really get into a space like gaming, which is growing, but still maybe a little bit here and there, skeptical, what is going to happen, not happen. And with this, when is that glamour of e-commerce companies going to come into gaming space, right? Because there's certain amount of glare which is associated to the Flipkarts and to the Olas of the world, right? Now, going with the same thing, how do we get the similar glamour to the gaming industry, whether it is going to happen or not happen, or it will happen in favor? From your perspective, please, Sudhanshu, along with your introduction.
Right. Thank you, Richa, for having me here, and hello, everyone. My name is Sudhanshu Gupta. I have been with PayTM First Games now for about close to 1.5 to 2 years. But I've also been with PayTM now for close to 7 years. And before that, I used to be with Flipkart back in 2011 to 13. So yeah, e-commerce is what I actually started my journey in the Indian internet space with. And PayTM First Games has been a very, very interesting journey for us here at PayTM First Games. And I won't cover a lot of stuff that I think Bhavin and Manish have already talked about in terms of the rise of gaming and all of that. But I'll skip to what you asked me, Richa, is when will gaming actually become as glamorous or as big as e-commerce, right? And I actually want to answer that by a quick anecdote that somebody told me a couple of months back, which is we were hiring someone, and we actually asked that. Well, he's also not from a gaming background, so we asked him, why do you want to join gaming? So he's like, can't you see it? Gaming is the next e-commerce of India, right? So the answer is that gaming is already on its way to becoming, the next big thing. And I've had the pleasure of working in various sectors, especially when they were categorized as sunrise, right? So I was in Flipkart back in 2011, and then I moved to PayTM and payments e-commerce again, in 2013. So early days, and gaming last 2 years. So if you see the time that what defines something as the next big thing or the e-commerce, there's a couple of metrics, right? One is there is a high target addressable market. The TAM is big. The second thing is that you're seeing very high adoptions. The third is that you're also seeing a very active interest from the investing community, because that's a very, very necessary step or a key element or ingredient to actually grow the overall ecosystem, right? So gaming today is actually ticking all the boxes. It's actually checking everything right there, right? In fact, we already have one unicorn, which is from India, which has already been established, right? So overall, many people call gaming the sunrise sector. Some others would call it the next big e-commerce sector of India. I think, all in all, the answer is simple. Gaming is already, the time has come. And, I had the pleasure of meeting Manish right when I started my journey into gaming. I have huge respect for him, for having done this for so many years. So, I think for him, his foresight was right. Now that time has finally come. It's already growing. It's already growing rapidly. There is everybody in the ecosystem, which is users, companies, investors, even job seekers. Everyone is now very, very keen on getting it. So the future looks very, very bright for gaming in India.
Yes. Thank you. Sudhanshu. That leads me to the next question. That's who is going to be the e-commerce or the sunrise industry from an investment perspective. So with that, Bhavin, I want to, and I'm going to challenge a little bit with the questions I'm going to ask, because these are the questions which our viewers want to ask. These are not the questions that I had framed, right? So Bhavin, the question to you is that there is a social stigma which is attached to it, attached to gaming, right? When I was growing up personally, I've always heard that खेलोगे तो बनोगे गवार पढ़ोगे तो बनोगे नवाब, right? So there is this whole thing that, okay, what are you actually trying to do, and what are you doing with our kids? It's more millennial centric. Kids are not playing. So the social element which is attached to the whole sector. What are your thoughts on it? What is the problem you're trying to solve, and is it a meaningful problem to be solved?
Is it a what? Sorry, last part of the question.
Meaningful problem to be solved for India. Where the cultural element is that you have to not play, and you all in some way or the other, in fact in all the possible ways, you're making it your play.
Sure, right? That's right. Thanks Richa, for that. And Richa, so first of all, I think the context was very different when that saying that you were making came out and now, right? In that context, it was like you study instead of playing, right? And now we are in a world where we're saying you study along with playing. In fact, you play to study, right? Gaming has become such a big part of education even now, right? If you look at a lot of these ed-tech startups that have come about, right, they're imparting knowledge through games, right? And that's where things have really, really changed now. That yes, games are of course used for entertainment, they always have been, but now everyone's thinking, wait, kids growing up love to play games. Why don't we teach them? Teach them some math, teach them some science using games, right? Teach them even, Duolingo teaches English and languages using games, right? So I think there is a real problem to be solved using games, because I think we're all evolving to understand now that there is no point forcing anyone to do anything. You get them to enjoy it. You get them to really want to do it, right? And that's why I think gaming plays an extremely important role and solves this big problem of, all right, I'm going to make studying fun. I'm going to make doing other things fun, right, in my life that I have to do. And along with that, I think the gaming obviously that we're doing also, again, is slightly different, but we're saying that, look, everyone has very busy days, very busy lives, right? Everyone needs to take some time off, right? and like they say, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. So everyone needs to take some time off and do other things, and that's where we all come in. All the gaming entrepreneurs, all the people on this forum, all the all the speakers on this forum, and all the people that are here, right, is to say that, okay, how can we really entertain people, right? And obviously, everyone is very, very mindful and careful about their customers, their players not going overboard. Right? Everyone is thinking about that as well, because everyone wants this to be purely entertainment, right? And that's really where I think that's the journey that we've traversed from back in the day to now, where we're really thinking of gaming as an avenue for learning, thinking of gaming as a legitimate pastime, and in that I think we have a long way to go, but I think we've come a long way. Hi, am I disconnected or is?
No.
I think Richard.
I think Richard is frozen.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's watching a Frozen movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess, yeah.
So just to just to build on your point, Bhavin.
Yeah.
I think life is the same. When we were all growing up, we used to, let's say, play cricket, and
Correct.
Our parents used to say, no, just go and study.
That's right.
Now I see parents or father taking their son on scooter to various cricket camps. And these cricket camps are not just in Mumbai. I come from UP, and I've seen it in small towns of UP, the cricket camps being organized. And,
That's right.
And the whole cricket gear with, pads and bats and helmet and all of it. And father really proudly telling to his friends that my son is doing this camp. So this is like just happened in 30 years, right?
Correct.
20 years.
Correct.
So I think it is basically we as parents, and now I am a 16-year-old father. So I understand that as a parent, you want certain stability, security of your child. You are always looking for that. So those feelings don't change. If you see a career, if you see a stability, if you see a security, as a parent, you'll be okay. So I think gaming now, as we embark upon gaming and with all esports, heroes becoming made, fame happening, your tournament money becoming increasingly. Last year we had how much? We had $2.5 million of prize money in India alone on esports, right? And if you kind of really see next 5 years, that 2.5 million will at least become 25 million in this country. So that's what is really going to happen. And when there's such a strong amount of ecosystem, different professional careers which can spin off, I think that our parents in India are very clear. Agar paisa kama rahe ho, secure ho, to life theek hai. Because we are very, 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 very clear about one thing. Like when I did my engineering, kyun engineering ban rahe ho? Job ke liye. There was no other bloody passion which I had for engineering. So I think we are, as a parent, our Indian households or small towns are very clear that if you can follow and find a secure, stable career, that line is okay. So I think, Richard, to your point, that Gawar thing is a very contextual thing, and it keeps changing at the convenience of parents, and that's what happens.
Well said. Great. So thank you for asking, because this question kind of repeated a few times, and that's the question that people wanted to ask. So great to hear your perspective on this one. Sudhanshu, the next one is on you, where the question is, India is a different country. It is not one country. It's the amalgamation of many, many cultures, many, many states and language and demography, etc. Right? So in a country like India, how do you really tackle the whole localization bit of gaming? Because what might work in Delhi might not work in Tamil Nadu, might not work in Goa. So how do you then actually go about building localized, customized games for India market?
Absolutely. I think, Richa, part of the reason why, we're also seeing the big growth in gaming, apart from obviously all the macro factors like data and, mobile phones and whatnot, is actually the fact that, game studios and publishers are really nowadays paying attention to localizing their content for India. And, it happens at multiple levels. And I'll take two examples, right? One is an example of a very popular battle royale game. Over the last few decades, we've had games with, orcs and kings and whatnots, right? And, the Indian audience still feels a little bit alienated to that. The funnel becomes very small when the context and the characters are not relatable. But what we've seen of late is that many of the popular battle royale games are actually introducing, let's say, kurtas and very Indian dresses into their games. Obviously they're doing this for monetization, but the moment they start doing that, it starts becoming more relatable, right? So that's one level. That's a very high level of an outside-in localization happening in the country. I think what's also changed and what's also important is how you market the games, right? And we've seen that video content-led, influencer-led game marketing actually took gaming to the next level in the last few years. And that really happened because when you open up marketing like that, it automatically gets localized. The marketing of your game is already being localized because now there is probably an influencer or a gentleman sitting and talking about the game in his own language to his audience, who then understand it far better, right?
Yeah.
So that's on the that's on the outside in side. And as you rightly said, localization. India is not just one country. And in fact, yesterday we had this big announcement from Google where they're investing a massive amount of money in India. And in fact, the first thing that Sundar Pichai also talked about is localizing their product for India, because it is so many countries in one, or cultures and languages. And that's where product plays a very, very important role. And we heard Bhavin in the beginning talk about how you have to constantly listen to your users, and then Manish talk about 99 of times you will probably think of something which will go wrong. So product eventually plays an important role here by just making sure that your game, your content is somehow, let's say, crossing the boundaries of language and becoming understandable for everyone, right? Simple things in product like, if I have to write some text in a game where the user was to say, let's say, confirm or cancel, why not give a tick and a cross? Because that's native and it's not dependent on language. So things like that are really important when you have to make your game really reach the masses. And the last part of our localization is again just context. So one of the recent biggest successes has been Ludo, right? And why it has become so successful is because we all played Ludo when we were kids. We all probably played it at home, right? We may not have played so many other games that we find on the Play stores, but Ludo is something that we all have played, and that's. And I'm not saying Ludo is an Indian game, but I'm saying as masses we've all played it. So when you pick a content which is something which is sort of native to the user, when you also make sure that in product it is not necessarily dependent on the user understanding the language you're writing, it massively helps us in localization. And these are just some of the key things that people do. And then of course you can go to marketing and all of the things on how do you localize your go-to-market strategies.
Fair enough. Thank you, Sudhanshu. Manish, Bhavin, if you have any comment, please feel free. I mean, it's not a fixed format where I ask questions and you respond. So if you have any comment on what the other panelist is saying, please go ahead and convey that for the users right here.
So I think from a localization point of view, one of the things which game companies have continued to look at game as one product. And I think as we have 300 million gamers today and will go to 500, 600 million gamers in 3-4 years, how is game a social adda? And what kind of, how do you simulate a local social adda in your game? That is where the real localization will come. Like Sudhanshu gave a brilliant example of Ludo. Now Ludo is the game mechanics which is familiar, but how do I build a social adda around it so that the way addas are formed in Allahabad when I was growing up to versus somebody sitting in Madurai to somebody sitting in Kota would be very different. So how do you discuss what are the behaviors, what are these nuances of people interacting with each other, and how do you really bring them that simulated experience of slangs, of emojis, of whatever it is? How do you create an element of a community and interaction and conversation which leads to connections? I think that is where the gaming is going to go as we move along.
Well, Bhavin, my next question will be to you, and I'm sorry, I'm just passing on slightly more tougher questions to you. I'm going to just read as is because I don't intend to sugarcoat it. The person who is locked in this question to us says, I find ads annoying. And we face that all the time while we play games, especially for those who don't like ads, it becomes irritating. So, what is your approach of monetizing gaming or any kind of a game that you plan to launch? And what is your perspective on it?
Richard, Bhavin got dropped, I think.
Yeah, I guess Bhavin has dropped out, no problem. In that case, Manish and Sudhanshu, would you take a shot at this question?
I think Manish can probably. Oh, okay. Bhavin is also back now.
Bhavin is back.
Sorry.
Bhavin, sorry, I guess you dropped out, and I was saying
Yeah.
that I'm asking one little bit of the questions to you. My apologies for that. But I'll read it.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
No worries. So I'm going to read it as it is because it's a good question. The person who is logged in this question says, I find ads very annoying. We face this play especially all the time, and for people like me who don't like ads, is extremely irritating. So, what is your approach of monetization in a space like gaming?
Okay. So there are multiple approaches, which at least I'll talk from my experience. When we sort of said that we want to, do games 24/7, we actually did encounter this problem. We said that, look, right now, what is the most popular games out there in India and globally were ones where people would play the casual game, but then every now and then they were forced to watch an ad. Because that's the only way the game would monetize. Because you watch the ad, you click on it, and that's how the game, the game publisher gets paid. But what we realized was that we had to really make gaming a service. We had to provide a service, right, that people would want to by themselves pay for. And that's where, at least in our case, the advent of Rummy Circle, real money gaming, where we said we'll do a game of skill which we can legitimately do for money, and we'll sort of provide a service where we'll get everyone across the country to play Rummy, which is an evergreen game, and in the process, for matching people, for keeping their account balances, etc., we'll take a small service fee. But otherwise, people are just sort of having fun and entertaining themselves, right? So that's how we thought of solving that problem in one context. In the other, at least our view has been, and I'll be honest with you, I'm sure that Manish and Sudhanshu will have their views, but we've not had that much success, and at least the space that we've seen, the social casino space, where we've done Ultimate Teen Patti, Ultimate Rummy, that the monetization has been that strong. Because after a while, right, if you're playing the same game again and again, you need to constantly keep innovating on the product. Like Manish said, right, the game has become a product. You need to keep innovating on that. And only when you innovate on that can you think of different ways to engage your players. And if you're able to engage your players, that's when they want to come back for more and want to buy the chips or want to buy the in-game products, right? So in our view, advertising has not been a very good way, and eventually will sort of catch on. And the gentleman or the lady who's asking this question is spot on, right, that it will be annoying after a point. But there has been enough and more casual gaming success across the world by providing games that will connect with the user, for which they would willingly want to pay, want to go and buy in-game, in-app, do in-app purchases, buy things in-app.
Okay, I guess Bhavin is facing some connection issue. Manish, in the meanwhile, you want to just give your perspective on the question which was on the table?
Yeah, I think, see, in gaming, the beauty of gaming is that you can have different heterogeneous segments of homogeneous behavior, right? So there are a lot of casual gamers who really do not, and the habit of paying for in-app purchase or habit for paying for a digital transaction isn't there. And the really intelligence lies in creating a format which we call rewarded video, where you kind of watch a video to unlock something to progress into the game, which is user opt-in. And that user opt-in actually makes money. However, if you kind of do any intrusive advertising, whether it's interstitial, static, or you throw it in face of the consumer, that's very annoying. And a lot of people don't understand that since it is annoying to the consumer, you do not get a 100% completed view. And since you don't get a 100% completed view, you don't get paid for it. So what is happening is neither are you getting paid, and nor are you kind of making your consumer happy, and which is leading to a churn. And that's a very lose-lose strategy versus thinking of what is good for consumer will always be good for you. So really, so ads are not bad. You have to really look at two things. How are you designing and weaving them into your game so that they become part of the gameplay and game progression, rather than really kind of being intrusive about it, right? And just to add on what Bhavin said, I truly believe that those who are listening and are looking for gaming and gaming companies and building that, if you are trying to build a business just on advertisement, then you need to really have a capability and capacity to continue to build high retention, high virality games. And if you do not have that, then you are rather well off to focus on in-app purchases, which is easier said than done, but at least you will have a shot at continuing to survive. But if you are neither able to generate IAPs, nor are you able to generate high retention and virality, I think you are in a difficult spot. So choose your battle very clearly and then figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Sudhanshu, that takes me to the next question that I will have for you. What is the expectation of gaming as an industry over the next 5 to 7 years? And what is the role of mobile gaming as an esport?
Sudhanshu, some explosive numbers. Go for it.
I think both of you, Bhavin and Manish, already said that context that we're going to see the next biggest gaming companies coming out of India. And the expectation of gaming, specifically mobile gaming in India is perfectly summarized in that. What's going to happen over the next 4-5 years is, obviously the internet penetration will increase. Everybody is going to be online with smartphones. Data has become so cheap that, people actually don't think twice before downloading a 1 GB game and playing and, staying online. And, as Manish has been talking about it, games have actually become more and more of, social addas, social networks. They actually spend, not just the time over there for entertainment, but, also for engagement with people and friends and so on and so forth. So all of this is adding fuel to the rocket, which is gaming right now. There are more boosters along the way, things like, mobile payments becoming easy. In fact, even the Play stores are able to monetize better today, and games are able to monetize better through IAPs, primarily because payments through the mobile have become easier and easier, right? So that's another sort of a booster that's getting added. And, the last part, I would say like the third important booster is investments. So gaming has become an attractive sector for VCs. I'm sure, Manish and Bhavin would probably be more than happy to talk about all their stories and struggles in the earlier years for, securing more funds for, bigger growth in gaming. So all of this is coming together, Richa. And, honestly speaking, I don't think this is unworldly, but we should probably see a couple of multi-billion-dollar IPOs also coming out of India, which are primarily focused on gaming, and that's definitely going to happen in the next 5 years for sure. So that's what we expect. And in terms of mobile esports, India has the unique, I would say, characteristic of always skipping 1 or 2 generations, right? And we talk about internet, we don't have that many LANs at home, but all of us are on mobile data. Similarly, PC gaming never became that big in India, and suddenly mobile gaming is huge, and consoles is just like forgotten. So I think mobile internet and smartphones is probably what was needed to really discover the potential of gaming in India, and it is already showing its results. Esports has traditionally been on the PC and console, but publishers globally and even in India are quickly catching up to the fact that the future is mobile, and which is why you're seeing a lot more esports tournaments being organized on games that are only on mobile. And even just within the esports, I would say segment, there are enough and more players also jumping in to, and that's needed to just make sure that ecosystem thrives. And to your question earlier on, that gaming is still such a bit of a stigma. All of that is also going to change in the next 5 years, because there are going to be a lot of esports tournaments. There are actually going to be bigger and bigger prize pools. People will actually, make careers out of it by just gaming, right? On the mobile, in fact. So, short summary, I would say, we should look at some of, a couple of big multi-billion companies coming out of India in the next 5 years, which are on gaming. Esports globally, while it is still, I would say, relatively nascent as compared to some of the other verticals in gaming, India would still catch up pretty fast to esports, all thanks to the ecosystem that is building around it.
Fair enough. Thanks for.
I think India would lead esports globally.
Yeah. The bigger numbers are coming from mobile, right? And Manish is right. We have the volumes to really lead that esports.
Because that's the media. That's a classic media business.
Yeah,
it's like cricket.
Correct. Absolutely.
Great. So thanks for explaining. While we were talking and while you were answering, there was a live question on the chat itself, which was that what is the kind of revenues gaming can have? I think you've already answered that while you were answering the last one. Manish, the next one is to you, and this is also a slightly different question, right? So basically, we've spoken about rise of gaming. All of you spoke about what does this opportunity entail, right? Now the question is, what is the flip side? What is the flip side? What is the biggest challenge that you can foresee or might not be able to foresee, which is get to hit, which happens pretty much with all industries, right? This is booming still. So what's your take on it? What is it that you think you're not prepared with? And when I say you, it is not you as Manish, but then in general as the leadership driving the gaming community.
See, the only thing which I am worried about, कि एक एहसान करो कि हम पे कोई एहसान मत करो from सरकार. Right? हम लोग manage कर लेंगे. That's the only thing which I get worried is that because of your opening statement which you said, it's an stigma, it's an optics, and we have a lot of people who are framing policies are not really well versed with gaming and not so much. When they wake up from the bed, I always pray every morning they wake up on the right side, and there is no policy or whims and fancies really kind of take over. I think rest of the stuff, as the domestic market grows, as ecosystem builds, companies become more profitable, they will reinvest in the ecosystem, and more money will come in from private equity. I think that acceleration of talent pool, acceleration of consumer acceleration of price pool on esports, all of that will happen. And I think that all the pieces of puzzle are nicely being stacked up now. It's the policy framework which is frankly beyond our control, and which as an industry we all keep working with variety of touch points, and that's something is our job is to evangelize it, our job is to keep explaining it, our job is to keep really talking about responsible gaming. And I think to ensure that a policy framework evolves which gives clarity and which does not really take any knee-jerk reaction, I think to me that is the only thing which we would really have to keep working on.
All right. The next one is for Bhavin, and Bhavin, this is the question which has just come in just before we could start this webinar today, and I want to be respectful to whoever has asked this question. And this is how it goes. Real money game has scaled and has done well in India in the past, right? What about casual gaming space? Whether you think that is going to scale up as much as real money gaming space?
So the short answer to that question is yes. The slightly more qualified answer is yes, but maybe not right away. So yes, real money gaming has done fine, and there are a few examples of that space scaling up. That gentleman, ladies, is absolutely right. on the casual games front, what at least we have seen, our experience, and obviously different operators will have different experiences there, different publishers will have different experiences there, is that we have not as a space yet, market yet evolved in terms of saying, okay, let me just pay to play a game without getting anything in return, right? We have evolved when it comes to going to the movies, to the theater. We say, okay, I'll go to a movie at the theater, I'll have fun watching the movie, see some good acting, singing, dancing, etc. And I'm happy. I've paid money for that. I don't want anything in return except that entertainment. My view is that in India, for gaming, that just hasn't happened yet, where people just say, I'll play this game, I'll pay to play this game, and I'm happy to just.
Okay. I guess.
Bhavin is like Akashvani.
Come and go. Give that Akash only and then the connection drops. Yes, we'll wait for him to be back. But if you and Sudhanshu, you have any perspective on the question which was asked, and like I said, this is a question that came pretty much last minute, and I decided to take it. Okay. Bhavin, are you back?
Yes, I'm back. Sorry, bad internet today.
No worries.
Sorry.
We have named you Bhavin Akashvani Pandya.
Yeah. No, it's embarrassing. Apologies. It's just very bad today. It's raining heavily, but anyway. So sorry, I was saying. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I was saying. Are you guys able to hear me?
Yeah,
You're breaking up. You're breaking up.
Now is this better?
Much better. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So yeah, that's sorry about that once again. Basically, so at least in India, I think at least our experience has been that the gamer hasn't sort of evolved to say that, okay, I just want to pay to be entertained through a game. Some of that is happening, some of that is coming around, but I think we're still some ways away where the masses will say that I just want to have fun and I'm willing to pay to play a game to have fun in the casual game space. That's been our experience at least, and but I think again, we will evolve, right? Like we were just talking about, Richa, that back in the day our parents frowned upon us playing games, right? They've come a long way, as Manish rightly said. The fathers are taking their sons to the cricket camps and the football camps now, and so I think these times will also change. I think yes, the one thing that is on our side, Richa, is population. We have a very, very young demographic, a young population that is over 600 million people, and that population is going to hold us in good stead. That population is really going to make us what we are as a country, as the gaming industry. And so I'm very, very bullish that this will happen. Just right now, it's not happening, is my view.
Okay. Any other thoughts, Sudhanshu, on this point, or Manish, from you?
No, I agree with Bhavin, absolutely.
Yeah.
The casual gaming would happen. From a monetization perspective, I think what's in it for me still is the early stage, and that has happened all across the world. Gradually, as you become, so I think if you look at East or West, they are gamer first countries, we are video first countries. And the generation which is there now, from 4-year-old to 14-year-old, they are becoming gaming first country, gaming first consumers. And as they are kind of going to grow up, the more and more people coming in, and young demographic dividend will start unfolding it over a period of time. I think second part is very important, is the per capita income, because we are a discretionary spend. We are on an average, if you look at, we are 1/10 or 1/12 of China if you were to take out the top 0.1%, which distorts the average of India to make it 1/5. And as our per capita income really increases, the propensity to spend will increase. And that is where the discretionary spend part really comes into picture. So combination of gaming being main primary mode of entertainment and a discretionary spend, comfort with discretionary spend increases, you will see that changing. But it is, in my opinion, a 5, 7 year, 8 year journey. for a casual game monetization.
So slowly but surely.
Yep. No, that has been I've been doing slowly but surely.
All right, so Sudhanshu, this is also a last minute entry, but I will have it for you. How long does it take really for the actual business plan to happen since the stage of ideation? You ideate for a game. What is the cycle time that it takes to convert it into actual business model?
That's a very good question. I think in order to arrive at a sustainable business model within a game, I think the first thing that you need to do is actually have a good clarity around what exactly are you going to be doing, right? I think it's first of all, let me say it's not new for startups and gaming companies to experiment a lot, to pivot multiple times, and finally arrive at a big success. And I think one of the most classic quoted examples I think is Rovio with their Angry Birds. I mean I think Angry Birds was probably like the 34th game that they came out with, which then turned out to be a runaway success, right? So, the answer actually varies a lot, but I think the starting point is you have to be clear about what you're doing. Are you in the casual game space or are you in the RNG space? If you're in the casual game space, then what genre exactly are you going to be in? Is it a battle royale? Is it a board game? Is it an action game? So on and so forth. And then, you have to really look at, the success stories from that genre and probably learn from there before you finally get down to, creating your game. Now, in terms of, what's the cycle that it takes for, a game or a business model to become profitable, assuming that, the game is a success and you achieve critical mass and a certain scale on it, I think it would be anywhere between, anywhere between 1.5 to 2 years before you probably are going to break even and then start making, a large amount of money on that game. This is, of course, not talking about exceptions. This is probably like a general trend that at least I've seen, and I think Manish probably will have far more insights on, especially on the casual gaming side, how how much time does it actually take for a game to break even or become profitable.
So just to kind of build on what Sudhanshu said, my only suggestion to anyone is that do not fall in love with what you're making and keep on making it without checking in with the consumers. Figure out your most lovable product, which should be maybe 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 weeks, and then have a rough prototype. Get your early 200 people, 500 people, check that out. Because one of the things which I see in the Indian ecosystem is you keep making beautiful art, amazing animation, real great graphics, and you keep chipping at it, working at it, and then when the game launches, you realize, oh shit, my D1 retention is 20%, 15%. And then all your effort has gone down the drain of 8, 9, 10, 12 months. And if you have kind of taken some angel money, you have burnt out, and then you are again creating another hope story that I got a lot of learnings from it, and now I will try to do something else out of it. My suggestion is agile prototyping is something which is very important in gaming, because really anyone who tells you I know how to make successful game, he is really down few pegs.
Right. So Manish, since you are on the topic, I will have one quick question, and then there is one more burning question which has been asked by many people, which I would request all of you to answer right after this. So the question is, if you have to very quickly assume that you have the time that you typically take in getting from one floor to the other floor in the elevator, and you have to say that these are 3 things which would differentiate one game from the other game, right? What would those few things be?
I don't know.
I
really don't know.
You don't know.
So
all games pretty much the same.
Absolutely. I will only ask that who is your target audience and why will he play your concept and why will that person keep coming back to play a concept? If you have answers to these 3 questions very clearly, lucidly, I know at least you have a chance of succeeding. If you do not have answers to these 3 questions, I would like you to sit down and have a longer chat with me.
So it is what? Is it the great tech stack? Is it the ability to understand data and the consumer behavior? Or is it the best UX, UI? What makes
All
it
of
successful or
in,
unsuccessful?
in CAT exam, we used to have one thing called all of the above. Answer would be all of the above, and then lots of luck.
Yeah, or or it could be none of the above. There was this one game called Flappy Bird, if you all remember, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't qualify that as a great tech stack, or even conceptually you wouldn't know what's really happening, but it was just viral, right? I actually agree with Manish. The answer is actually I don't know. There's, you can agree on the right concept or the right user that you want to target, and why are you actually making it? Why do you think it actually will work? And that's probably the starting point.
I think that is the ability to thrive in chaos.
Yeah.
Makes this segment super exciting and attractive, and that's what keeps all of us on our toes, because the next big company could come from a 4 guys working today in some garage, right? So I think that is the beauty of this vertical, that it is not somebody can say that I am here and I will dominate, like Rovio, Angry Birds, where are they, right? So there are many companies which can keep emerging, and we are a very young nation when it comes to gaming. We are just starting, and I believe that there will be 200 more very high quality startups which will emerge over the next 5 years. And I have seen, as I told you, from 30 to 300, 400 in last 3-4 years. And out of them, 4, 5, 6 of them are now achieving a scale of $70, $100 million revenues. So yes, the juggernaut is moving. The pace of that movement will just keep on accelerating.
Cool. So there is one question, like I said, right after this, I would come to that. This has been the most frequently asked question, repeated many times, right? So hitting the nail on its head, what does it take to build a career in gaming? What are the 2 or 3 things that somebody needs to have to be qualified for working in the gaming sector? Is it, again, the best engineering ability? Is it the UX design? What? So what would make somebody to build a successful career? How do they enter the space? That's the question. So Manish is, yeah, Bhavin.
Go ahead, Manish.
I think perseverance, patience, these are the only 2 things which you need, and you will get it right. Whether you are starting.
Go ahead, Manish. I was going to say that I'll add passion to it as well. Like, you have to be interested in it.
That's what I said, perseverance and passion.
So is it just the attitude?
Passion,
And
okay.
I hear you say, Manish and Bhavin, I hear you say it's passion, it's perseverance, it's patience, right? How much is the skill important to enter a gaming sector? Only soft skills would do, or somebody needs to possess something else?
Yeah, there has to be a little bit of raw material. I would not say that the raw material is not required. There is a raw material needed, right? But as the 3 Ps we defined on the call, they outweigh in the long term, along with the raw material. If you do not, so let me kind of take a step back. There is a good to do, there is must to do, right? Raw material is hygiene, but after that, patience, passion, perseverance is a must to do in a gaming business. All of us are sitting here. Sudhanshu is new, but before he loses more here in next 5-7 years, then only he's going to really see a big success, right? So all of us who have really have spent good 5, 7, 8 years building company or in the gaming career of a decade, learn to over the time period. And I think that's the journey. That's the dakshina you have to give to this vertical before you can say that I'm somebody. I know a little bit. So I think it's an arduous journey. When you are on it, you need to have those 3 virtues, and those are your North Pole. That's it. And there'll be many days. There'll be many days when you will feel, why the f I'm doing what I'm doing.
So is it fair to say, because we've talked about the boom, we've talked about the opportunity, you've talked about what it takes to be in the gaming sector, is it fair to say somebody who really has the passion, perseverance, and the foresight for it, would there be opportunities in your respective companies for them? And how do they get there?
I think take our mail IDs and then write to us. That's the only answer.
I think all gaming companies across the board are on a hiring spree. So I don't
Yeah.
think, it would be a challenge to discover opportunities. But yeah, as, Bhavin and Manish is saying, you need to show the right grit, the right attitude, and yeah, you're in.
Wonderful. So we are pretty much at the end of the session. There were running questions on the chat which I was reading, but I guess those who are following the webinar, those questions are in a way answered in one way or the other. There's just one question which I would just request either of you to take up. Um, how often should the games be updated to keep people coming back for more? Updates like gameplay, maps, etc. That's on the chat right here while we are in it. Any quick comment from any of you before we wrap up?
I want to say a couple of things here. One is I think and a lot of people are now talking about this. A lot of gaming companies are focusing on this is personalization, right? And it's a journey. As you start to personalize experience for your players, right? As you understand them better and say, okay, this player will like this. Manish is a different player. Sudhanshu is a different player. Richa is a different player. And I have to sort of give them what they want. That journey is never ending. Of course, there are practical limitations to how often you update an app. Like you can't keep updating it every day, right? But you have to stay relevant. You have to sort of keep personalizing for your audience. And I think that's something that's where I think a gaming company has to sort of find a good balance as to, I want to update and make it more relevant and customized for the player, but I don't want to keep doing it every day, because then every day there's a new app that's being uploaded that sort of, affects retention, engagement, etc. So I think that relevance, personalization is something that one will have to keep updating for over time. And then that journey is never ending as long as the app is engaging, the game is engaging, right? So that's what I want to say there.
A very quick question with you, which is on the chat again, and I know you and I have spoken about this particular topic before when we met last. The question is, what is the difference between game of chance and game of skill? I think you're the best person to give a gist.
Yes, again. So basically, eventually it comes down to how the law defines it. More than anything else, more than how the dictionary defines it, it's about how the law defines it, right? And the law uses what they call the preponderance test, right? To get slightly technical. And the preponderance test is that if skill dominates chance, then it's a game of skill. If chance dominates skill, then it's a game of chance. The law is also very, very clear and simple on this, that a tennis game is a game of skill, a chess game is a game of skill, because skill really dominates chance. In the same vein, like a teen patti is a game of chance. Some other games like roulette is a game of chance, because you have no skill in which number you choose. Whichever number comes when that thing stops moving is the number you get. So short answer is that it all depends on whether skill trumps chance, trumps skill, so to speak.
Sure. Fair enough. So, well, we are pretty much at the end of the session. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. There are still many comments coming on the chat.
Richa, there are a couple of questions there that I saw were interesting. I think that will help the participants. And I'd also like to hear Manish and Sudhanshu's view on this. And one of them was that Reliance Jio is sort of making a big play to pick up all the consumer space, industries, internet, etc. Is gaming threatened by that, right? And I obviously want to give my view, but I also want to hear others' views. And my view on that one is that I go back to the point that all of the things that Jio or Reliance is doing really well in terms of making its mark in the industry are with consumer goods that people really want, right? Gaming is not something that people really want. They appreciate it, they enjoy it, right? But it's not something that you absolutely need, right? And that's where I think a gaming company will find success no matter what, as long as it's able to fill a void that is not necessary to be filled in a person's life, right? And that's where I think the difference is between consumer goods and gaming, where yes, in consumer goods, if someone can sort of be more aggressive, they can probably overtake you or do better than you. But in gaming, I think, like Manish, I think, and Sudhanshu also mentioned that it could be people working in a garage, it could be people anywhere, but they just come with that one idea, right? That sort of takes off in a really big way. And I think that's really the beauty of gaming. And therefore, I think people should not worry about some big company coming and taking them over, because their idea, if it takes off, will catch up like wildfire, and then there is no looking back.
Yeah, I want to add to that. Gaming is actually not a winner-take-all market. Reliance obviously is known for, sort of just bulldozing into a sector and just pushing everybody out on the edges. Mr. Mukesh Ambani has mentioned in some interviews that he thinks gaming is going to be a very big sector, and maybe a priority for them. I think the only thing that helps me sleep at night is that eventually it's not a winner take all market. You could, the Play Store, it's all very democratic. You can just go and download any game you want. If your product is good, if your product is engaging, you can still get customers. So, for me, that is what, if Geo enters, it's great, because when they do, they obviously expand the pie massively. But, when they do that, they'll be expanding the pie still for everyone.
Everyone, yes, yeah, that's right.
So if you look at it, if you break down the gaming, you can break it down into content, platform, access point. Yeah. And for a Geo, which has an amazing amount of play, and if you look at it, what they've created access points and they've created platforms. And that's what the play is, because that play is a massive scale play, massive DAO, MAO play. It goes along with their asset of, they have a 400 million distribution power, they have got payment friction. So I think they are going to really look at a platform and access kind of a play. While the content play is a play, they understand that there is absolutely going to be a long tail, and that content play is also very, very kind of in gaming per se, or in most of the content, even movies, is led by the creative people and not by the organizations, right? So I think this is a beautiful opportunity with Geo. If it was to come into gaming, it will just expand the whole platform and access kind of thing, and opportunity for content creators would really increase manifolds. So I think there is no need to be threatened, because if you are clear in the value chain, what you are doing, then you should be very, very clear that this is a golden opportunity. A digital highway is being created and laid out for you, and the best content is going to win. So focus on your content rather than any noise around the system.
Great. All right, so we are 3 minutes over, but I think this was an important question, and thanks for your perspective. Again, to our viewers, thank you for attending. Thank you for being here. Thank you for asking all the questions that you had asked, all interesting questions. Do continue to follow Tech-à-tête. We are going to bring more and more interesting players into different aspects of gaming as we go along. So thank you, Bhavin. Thank you, Manish. Thank you.
Thank you, Manish. Thank you,
Thanks,
Sudhanshu.
Richa. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.